unmute Dan.
He's
Oh, there's Dan. So you changed. It changed. The picture's reordered. So, all right, thanks.
Sandy,
Hi,
I
guys.
think there's something going on with actual Zoom because I can't go live with the other option either. So what I'm doing is I'm recording this meeting to my computer. And we'll have a record of it, but we won't have anything on YouTube.
Okay. All right. So, Dan, you want to?
Yeah, so I guess I just looking for some clarification. I've got a couple of questions. You know, this is a new process for us. I just want to make sure that, A, we've got the approval from both the Planning Board and Conservation Commission for the conditional use permit, because I know it was voted in the positive from the Planning Board. Are we supposed to get a signed or written permit from somebody, or how does that work?
Well, the planning board is the one who approves the conditional use permit.
Yeah, okay.
So the conditional use permit has been approved.
All right, okay.
So that part of it has been approved.
Okay, all right.
You know, we raised our concerns, and I think you they've seen the concerns that we had sent to the planning board, and we passed them along to DES. And so that's, you got one hurdle and there's the other one remaining.
Okay, all right. So do we get some notification then from either board that says that, you know, we've got the go ahead for that, or how does that work?
Well, you'll have to ask, I guess, Matt, or I don't know whether Alvina knows about the wetland conditional use permit.
Well, that was I think the notice of decision was sent out. So I think that
Okay.
as much as the planning board can do, it's been approved. The notice of decision has
Right, notice of decision. Okay.
Okay, all right, all right. And then my second question, and maybe this is quick and painless, I don't know. Unfortunately, the very next morning after the planning board meeting, we got notification from EPA that this permit had been flagged for review. So I'm wondering how that notification comes out of the town to the EPA. What's the process, and who is approved to do that under what auspices? You know,
how that works, Dan, is that because it's a minor project, minor or major impact projects. Well, actually, EPA in the past, EPA would, DES would provide to EPA minor, major, all standard dredge and fill applications. They'd provide a list to EPA and say, this is what we've received. And then EPA would say, okay, we're going to want to look at the file for this, that, and the other thing. So they would come in at least monthly. And after they, I actually used to generate those reports that went to EPA.
Okay.
And then EPA would come back and basically contact the administrative person, say, okay, I want to see these, 5 files or what have you. And then they'd come in for a review and look at them someday. And they typically targeted them for certain things. I know development projects where there was a lot of land disturbance. It could be because floodplain things. I don't know what they're targeting. Person I used to work with retired, and I don't know how they're doing it, but any standard dredge and fill applications are sent, the list of them is sent to EPA for review, for consideration, for them to select things to review. And it's basically, they get the information that's like in one stop.
Yeah.
So they would review the month's worth of one-stop standard dredge and fill and then decide which, if any, they want to review.
Okay. All right. Because my understanding was that the state hadn't even sent this out on a list, and all of a sudden it got flagged. So I'm just wondering where the request came from.
Right. Yeah, it's a routine. It had come into, I mean, this is what had been done before. Monthly, the EPA has sent a list of all the standard dredge and fill applications. And
Okay,
from that, they decide, they pick and choose what they want to see.
I see. Okay, all right. All
But
right.
I would encourage you, because I know that this project was really in the planning for a while.
Yeah.
And I know that you all had submitted a trail notification at the beginning of this year that was denied because of the Blandings turtle. And so there's some of those things we could have, you know, I was personally doing the training for the Wetlands Bureau at the time, and we could have provided some guidance at that time that you would have not lost the time in the project. So
Yeah.
I would encourage you to, you know, come into contact the Conservation Commission ahead of time. And that could help you in the future.
Okay. All right. I was just, I guess, taken aback by the fact that we had the planning board meeting and the very next morning that I'm getting a notification from EPA.
Yeah, that was just, yeah, happenstance. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could even ask, you know, you could ask the permitting inspector, you know, when those, I don't recall, well, see, I can't remember the timing of when your application was received by EPA, DES.
I'd have to go back and check my emails. We did get notification that they had,
Oh, that's right. I think it was considered incomplete on the 20th of July and then complete on August 3rd.
something about
Like
that.
that, right? And I used to run those reports on the 20th of the month.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're still doing it on the 20th of the month. That
Okay.
was just,
And does that report get generated based on completion of the paperwork or?
no, it's receipt. It just is if it's in the door,
Yeah.
because the idea is for EPA to be able to address the things or raise, you know, any concerns or address any concerns parallel with DES's review, so that it's not like you do DES's review and then it has to go to EPA. So
Okay.
they're trying to do that in parallel. So that's why, that's the timing with that.
All right. So then just to make sure I'm clear, and I'm sorry that I have to ask this, but it wasn't a request coming out of either one of the boards then?
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely not.
Okay.
No, there's no, there was no reason to do that. No.
All right. All right. No, that was it. I just needed some clarification on that, and I'll look out to Matt to see if we get something in writing, or maybe we haven't. We just haven't checked our mailbox today. So, but I'll reach out and find out. But thank you very much.
Sure. The other thing is if you check One Stop, it will tell you whether there's been a more information letter generated.
Okay.
And so if you can go in there, because I often check and see new applications that have come in or timeframes. So, you know, where things are in the process. So you can actually check that online.
Okay. So that's part of the DES website
You
then?
go to the DES website, there's that funky logo that says One Stop. And if you click on that, it takes you to a page with like A to Z list of different programs, and wetlands is right near the bottom.
Okay.
And if you click on that, then you can enter your search terms. And I just would do Bo, and you could say things received in, don't enter a lot of information, things received between, you know, if you want to say, you know, March and now,
Yeah.
and then yours is one of the few that comes up.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much.
All right. You're welcome, Dan.
Right.
Take
Have a good
care.
night.
You too. Okay. So for our next application, or next item, let's talk about Turry Pond.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob, if you want to talk about either any new sampling or the milfoil work, that'd be great.
Okay. Ben Jones, who's the diver we had hired to do this, has continued to work on the pond. Usually about one session per week. He's got a lot of the ponds he's doing. So he comes in and spends about 4 to 5 hours when he comes in. It's very tiring work, so you can't do it for 8 hours at a time. His contract is about up, so he'll be here for one more session this coming week. Just to give you some idea, he's pulled a lot of milfoil. Just to give you some idea, right now, I think he's up around 250 gallons of this milfoil he has removed. And give you some sense that when he pulls the milfoil out, it gets collapsed. It gets all the water out of it. So he puts it in 5-gallon buckets, and it's probably about 15 to 20 plants, depending on the size in each bucket. And up to this point, he's taken out about 50 buckets. So that's around 600 pounds of milfoil. Huge, huge amount. About 3 weeks ago, I think we, in talking to Sandy and Amy Spagula, we came to the conclusion that there's no way he could get all of it out of there this year. The plants have just exploded in growth. Plants that we had marked in June had probably that we hadn't got pulled out yet. Some of them had grown 3 or 4 feet just over the summer. I was just really amazed how fast this stuff grows in there. So we tried to come up with a strategy to do the best we could to clear it out. And we separated the pond into 3 sections. And I think there's in the packet there's a
Yeah, actually, I will, I'll pull it up. All right, let me see. Oh, Acrobat Reader. I think, oh, shoot. Shoot, okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah,
well, anyway, I guess I can describe it. There were 3 sections. The one section was pretty much the whole east end of the pond over to up the one point that comes out into the pond on the south end. So it's probably about 2/3 of the pond. That was kind of the highest priority because it didn't have as much. We thought if we could keep it clear, we might be able to save some money next year in terms if we do have to do a treatment. My understanding is the treatment's paid for by the acre.
oh, here.
So if there's the area there, and the area that I'm talking about now is everything from that point to the east there, not in A, B, or C. So we concentrated on that eastern end to try to get it clear. Amy had found a bunch of plants in there when she was out. We cleared all those. I found about 20 more plants about 3 weeks ago, and Ben cleared those out. So the idea was if we could get that clear, maybe we wouldn't have to have it treated next year. Unfortunately, I found more plants in there this week, even after we cleared it out. So there is still some new growth in that area we didn't get. There's not a lot, but there is still some growth in that area to the east of that point. So the next thing we decided was, well, maybe we can get this point over here, A, and if we could get that cove cleared out, maybe we wouldn't have to treat it. Ben worked on that 2 weeks, and there is a huge amount of milfoil on there that we couldn't get it all out, and some very, very large plants. So we gave up on that, and we moved over to that section called B over on the other side. And we were able to get that cleared out this last session. At least from what we can see at this point, he has cleared that out. So we still have the section A there and the section C that there's a huge amount of milfoil in. That I can't see a diver ever be able to get it out. There's just huge patches of it in there, and there's some old plants. So we'll have to next year think about what we do with that and how much of the pond we treat, because that's pretty much going to be our only option next year, I think, to get it out of there. So that's pretty much it. There'll be one more session, and I think what Ben's going to do on Friday is we'll go back into the eastern section there and double check to make sure everything's out of there once more, and then that'll be it for this year. So that's pretty much the story. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Sandy, or not, in terms of what you observed.
No, it's amazing that we only got the diver because the report that that was done after the treatment said that there was a little bit in the area B. And then it turns out that it's like all over. I do want to, the contract was for 60 hours of Ben's time, and we're nearing the end of that. Most of Ben's time, Bob was there assisting. And so I really want to thank Bob for all his time spent there, and also for Dick, who also helped quite a bit. And I appreciate the time that both of you spent, because we would have never gotten as much done as we did. And I'm hoping that by getting some of the really big plants out, maybe the treatment will be more effective, or the plants that are there will be hit back by it more. But I think it was very effective work in the time that we had. It just is, it's an uphill battle with that stuff. And
I think we still don't know why it didn't work, for sure. Why the treatment did not get rid of the plants. So
well,
I
I think Amy mentioned that at least in one other case that she knows, in another boggy or highly organic pond, it also was not as effective. So I think her thought was that maybe some of the herbicide was absorbed by the organic material, and so the amount that was in the water available to treat the plants was insufficient, was much reduced because of that organic matter. I don't know. It'd be, another one of those tangents on research that I tend to do when these things come up. So yeah.
This is Wendy, and I think we had written in the minutes from the last meeting that you were going to follow up with Amy. So that's what she said. She's aware of one other lake or pond in New Hampshire where kind of a similar thing happened, or was this a different state?
I think it is in New Hampshire. I'll have to take a look at the email.
I believe it was too. Yes.
Yeah, because I think it was based upon her personal knowledge or observations.
Right.
And the other thing to say,
So,
they
I
still
guess-
are having good luck with this chemical in other places. I mean, the couple years, they've got a couple years in its holding. So don't know what's different about Turi.
Yeah. Other than that organic material, whether that's really the issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's we're finishing up with our season. I do want to mention we had a little incident. Apparently, the Marine Patrol had put up their sign stating that the pond, you couldn't have, more than a 10 horsepower engine, because it wasn't only a speed limit that's restriction that's on the pond, it's a horsepower limit. And I know Bob and others have observed larger horsepower boats there, and although they may not scoot around the pond, when they're exiting the pond, I know Bob had mentioned that they kind of gun the engine and then create havoc in the bottom of the pond and such. So Marine Patrol had put up a sign, and it apparently got ripped down, along with some things on the kiosk bulletin board. When I was at the pond a little over a week ago, somebody there who's a contractor, I started chatting with him, and he said, "Oh, I have a drill in my truck. I can put it back up for you." So the sign is back up. I meant to take a photo of it and recheck it periodically. And I notified not only Marine Patrol, but Garrett at Fish and Game, because I guess there's one poster that was torn down that's missing. And I think Garrett, had mentioned that there had been increased vandalism at other boat ramps in the state, which he had felt was very discouraging. But so that's, I think that's it there for Turry Pond. And
I'll mention, Sandy, I can mention real quickly, I'm scheduled to do the last VLAP measurement this Thursday.
oh, okay,
had-
good. That's what I was wondering.
I have the equipment reserved, and I'm going to do the same thing, do the Bow Bog Brook chloride measurements the same day, so we can get a real good comparison of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming there's enough water in the brooks to get a good sample. Everything's really down, so
Yes, yeah.
it's on that. So it might mention we did do on Bow Bog Brook, the last sample. We also took Sandy had recommended we take phosphorus in samples on Bow Bog Brook also when I took the chloride, and there didn't appear to be any excessive total phosphorus in Bow Bog Brook.
Yeah, good background. Low background levels. Great, thank you,
And
Bob.
do we have the chloride numbers? I'm sorry, for Bow Bog Brook?
I do not have all of them at this point. So what should happen is this will be the final one, and then we'll get a report from VLAP and another report from VLAP. And probably in October, we can put all that together and kind of look at, what went on for the year.
Okay, so you don't have any
Well,
I
we
have
have
some.
feeling?
we have some.
I have some, yeah. It has to be pieced together with the conductivity data and to get the comparisons, and I haven't done any of that.
Okay.
They will do that
Is-
for the VRAP will do that for us and give us stem and leaf plots when they do their
Okay.
report in October. But I have
So
not,
nothing jumped out at you so far?
no.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Yeah, and the chloride there was relatively low, much lower than what we've seen in Turry. I remember looking at it. I forget the numbers. All right. So I did want to mention, let's see, that I sent the comments and edits to Jeff Littleton on Friday. For the report and for the story map. I thank those of you who gave me comments. And I haven't heard from Jeff. I'll check in another day or so to make sure that he got them, because I know he had trouble periodically with his email. I wanted to mention with the status of the land donation, I brought it up the last time and I forgot that we really, the Conservation Commission needs to vote to make a recommendation regarding the land donation. And I can pull up a map. Well, I know the, yeah, there's what was in the packet. And I do have another map as well. So this is, whoop, no, we could go down. There we go. Yeah, the lot with the star in it is the lot. It connects to the Walker Forest. And it's, this is the back of, probably not viewing my screens. I was using my mouse, but,
No, I can give you control.
okay. All right. That's good.
All right. It's all you, Sandy.
Okay. So, the back of this lot, this is the Hamilton Court subdivision. So the back of this lot is open space. This is part of the Hammond Preserve. This lot, there's actually a conservation easement on. It's privately owned, but there's a conservation easement because it's really very wet in there. And then, so this land really is contiguous to a lot of other protected areas. This is from the Wildlife Action Plan. So the green is a, that's the highest ranked in the biological region is the green. The pink is the highest ranked in the state. So it's really a good property. And what I will do is I will, I have some other maps I did because I went out there.
Let me stop sharing, Sandy. You can share your screen because that's
Okay.
my computer.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Hang on one sec. All right, now you can share your screen.
Okay. Now if I can get back to Zoom where it says share screen. Okay. So this is the parcel with some topo lines on it as well. You can see some of the trails in orange. It looks like some of the trails go onto the lot. Hard to know. These boundaries aren't on the GIS, are not exact. But the trails go this way. It's a lot of hemlock. I think that's why there's kind of highly ranked. It's a great deer yard. Other northern hardwoods there as well. And then there's some drainage that comes down this way, but actually fairly dry, but pretty steep parcel. So does anybody want to make a motion to recommend accepting the land donation?
Sandy, could you just like restate for the record what the donation is for, why it's being donated?
Okay, well, it's a landlocked parcel, and the person, or it's actually people who own it, are the same people that own the Hamilton Court subdivision land. And I think they just decided it's a landlocked parcel, you know, we're not going to use it, we'll donate it to the town.
So it wasn't connected to the permit for the
Correct.
subdivision or anything?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it had nothing, it was just totally separate from that.
And if we accept the donation, then do we also say who's going to manage it? Is this going to be the town, Bow Open Spaces, or?
Well, I think it was going to be, how was it written? Well, I have not seen the deed, that the draft deed that was drafted. I think Tanya had some, yeah, I have not seen the language for it. But the purpose was for conservation. So I will check on finding out about it, getting a copy of the deed, but I know that the both the select board and, I guess they needed a recommendation from the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board for the land donation.
Right, so
Yeah.
I mean, I would make a motion that we accept the donation, but I guess I would also recommend that it be, whatever the wording is, managed by Bow Open Spaces.
Well, that would mean they would put an
And
easement.
you can't do, right, so I
Usually,
didn't know if you can't do that at once, like at the initially,
Well,
we have to do it separately.
well,
I mean, there should be an easement put on it if it's being donated for conservation.
right. Okay, well, if we want to make a second part of it, or if you want to consider making a second part of it, to recommend that we accept the land donation, and then secondly, that recommend that there be an easement put on it to be managed by Bow Open Spaces. And then we need to check with
Yeah.
Bow Open Spaces. I know I had told them about the land way back, but
So let's do it two separate ones, I guess, right?
Okay.
Unless people, well, I guess we could do it together, the motion, unless somebody's going to have an objection. I don't know.
Can I ask a question?
So, sure.
Yeah, who has the easement on the adjacent properties? Who manages the adjacent properties? Is that Bow Open Spaces or is that the
it's
town?
Bow, yeah, I think it's Bow Open Spaces.
Okay.
I believe it is on the Walker, definitely.
Okay, so this is Wendy, and I make a motion that we accept the land donation. What's it called? The Pushy Chadwick donation? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt, but I gotta jump off. My dog just got into a porcupine, so I might be.
Oh, no.
sorry.
Does he
All
need
right.
to vote on this or no? Oh, we already left. Does he
I
need to
think
vote?
we actually have, Dick is here,
Okay,
so we
All right.
have enough people.
so,
Thank you, Dick.
okay, motion that we accept the land donation and a recommendation after consultation that an easement be placed on it by Bow Open Spaces,
To be managed by.
to be managed by Bow Open Spaces.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. That's Dick seconding it. Okay. All those in favor? Why don't we do it one at a time?
Wendy, aye.
Dick, aye.
Bob, aye.
Sandy, aye. And we'll mention that Michael had left the meeting. Temporarily. Okay. All right. Good. So I will pass that along to Tanya, and it'll be in the minutes, and then we can get that moving forward. Okay. And I was going to ask Michael about any Bow Open Spaces work, but Michael's otherwise occupied. Okay. Couple of other things I want to mention before we talked about the research funding, but one is there's a meeting, we had talked about the meeting that I'm going to be at with the select board. Let me close this. I don't need this. Open my. Whoops, that's not it. All right. So there's a meeting on September 22nd with the chairs of all the committees to meet with the select board. We talked about, Wendy was there last year, and so what the select board has also brought up is there anything they can do for us or help us with? So other than me reviewing things that we're working on and what we've done, you know, the past year or whatever, is there anything that you can think of that I should discuss with the select board or ask for their help? Or
I was wondering if they could give us some staff support in writing grants.
okay. I will, that's a good one to mention. Any other thoughts? Okay. Well, if anybody has any thoughts on anything else that comes to mind, let me know. That would be helpful. I did want to mention, I think I'd emailed out to folks a copy of that listing of the research funding. And this was, I can share my screen. This was from a table that had been given out at, I think, an NHACC meeting in 2018. And it has a variety of projects, grant sources. And I just didn't know whether we want to have folks maybe pick a couple of programs to do research on grant sources, and then we can kind of come together and talk about them and figure out what things might be possibilities for us to apply to for future conservation projects. Does anybody recall getting this in the email?
I got it.
Okay, all right. Because I know, I mean, some of these are not ones that would be appropriate for most of what we have, the agricultural easements, you know, other than a couple of potential properties that probably wouldn't apply. There's the ARM fund from wetlands. LCHIP is another big one. let's see, Merrimack Conservation Partnership is one, the Moose Plate, you know, some of these are smaller funds, but you know, if you're putting them together, it's actually looked at favorably. For certain properties, the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund. So I don't know if anybody wants to pick one or two to take a look at. I know there's also the, what's not on here, although I know Bob always comments on how competitive it is, the NIFWIF, or it's the, forget what it stands for, but I do have information on that from previous years. It's also does streams, can't remember other things. But I guess my concern is that we really need to be more well-versed on this stuff and aware of the timeframes. You know, I know there was some thought about, you know, not going forward with anything in the near future, but you know, you have things like the property that was proposed for development a couple years ago, year and a half ago, with the vernal pools, the Cohen property, that's back on the market. They've reduced the price 30%, but it is back on the market. So these things, the timing can be critical for them. And I think that we need to be not only aware, but just more proactive. Once we finalize the NRI, and I know that we need to schedule a public meeting for the NRI. And when I get comments or talk to Jeff, I will see about his thoughts on that, and I'll touch base with everybody on what kind of time frame or dates we should think of for a public meeting for the NRI.
Well,
Annie, this is Juanita. Just go ahead, Bob.
I was gonna say,
No,
I'd
I was,
be glad to take one or two of them. You know, if you want to pick one you think would be the best bet, Sandy, you know, I could at least do the research about finding out about it and when it's due and all that stuff.
Sure.
I'd be glad to do that anyway.
Well, Bob, do you want to look at that NIFWIF? I know you've come across it before. I'll get you the info. I have the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just.
Yeah, if you can send me the current information. And I wrote a moose plate grant once too, so I have a little bit familiar with that.
Oh, New England Forests and Rivers Fund. It's let's see, NEFRF. And I know that there are, you know, big folks that get these funds and such, but I think it doesn't preclude us from looking at projects and seeing if we can make as long as you don't want to fit a square peg in a round hole. That's one of the things of the grant. You're not going to get a grant if your project really doesn't match up to what the grant is going for. And I think that's where the research is really helpful, because you can say, okay, this focuses on X, Y, and Z. And so as we're talking about potential parcels, we can say, okay, what grant funds, you know, gee, that it looks like that would really fit well with this grant fund, and once again, we really need to look at what combination of grant funds, because it makes it usually preferable to the funders if you're not just looking at one grant for all your money.
Okay, well, I'll do
Well,
that
you-
one if you want.
Okay, I'll send you that information, Bob. Wendy, you were going to say something?
Well, obviously, Sandy, you have inside scoop, right, on the local source water protection grants.
Well, those local source water protection grants are not being funded anymore. The authorization, it's the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund. That's the stuff that I do.
Oh, there's no more local source water protection grant?
They haven't put money into it.
No? And is the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund on this list?
Yes, it says it's new. Let me
It's
get
on
that.
page 2. Was it on the second page?
Yes, yeah, it has Paul's information, but
Okay.
I could cover that because I do know that.
Oh, so that I was getting that confused because in this last, the one, the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust, no, whatever the other one was on the other page, but
That's the
there's this
last.
the Water Supply Land Protection Grant Program.
Oh, that's different. The source water is, I think, geared more toward water supplies.
Wasn't this Water Supply
the
Land
actual water
Protection?
supply, suppliers like the water supply companies or
Okay. So does DES still do this Water Supply Land Protection Grant Program?
No, because it is still authorized, but there's not money there. So they're now doing the land protection through the trust fund.
And was there recently an RF request for proposal for that one?
The
For
trust fund, that's what I did a talk on Wednesday for the New Hampshire
Mhm.
Association of Conservation Commissions. The eligibility is in June, and then the funding application, which you have to submit the eligibility first, the funding applications were just due last week.
Oh, okay.
And actually, the LCHIP and the ARM Fund have also gotten into and I don't know whether they'll keep it up, a similar time frame. So the ARM Fund also has like a May pre-application date and an August for the full application date. LCHIP also,
Okay.
so if you're working for if you're trying to combine the multiple grants, you can do it in a similar time frame.
Okay. I don't know what this Merrimack Conservation Partnership is.
I can
But I
send you a
would
link
look-
to it.
Well, I see the link.
Oh,
I'm
the
just
link
saying I
is
could
there.
look
Okay.
into.
Yeah.
I can look into that one.
And that, well, it says it's basically the transaction costs,
Oh, is that all it is?
right? But
Oh,
once again, it still is, you're going after money, another small pot of money. And I think every little bit can help. But yes, it's not a big pot, but it's out there.
okay.
And I think that may have a September timeframe. I can't remember. And that's also, Moose Plate is also in a similar time frame. That's also kind of limited, but once again, it's another source of funds.
I don't know anything about this Open Space Institute. If you don't know anything about that, I could look into that one.
Okay.
Got that.
Does the NOAA one there, do we have anything that would qualify for the coastal?
Probably not. Unfortunately.
That one would probably scratch off the list, maybe.
Yeah, for us. Well, this is an older list too. We can put together our own list as people come back with information.
Can you go back to page 1 again?
Sure. I think the forest legacy, I think some of that comes from, it may be through the state. I think it comes from federal monies, but I don't recall. And
Is Bob looking into that one? Or who, is anybody doing that one?
the forest legacy, I don't think we assigned that one. Do you want to look at that one?
I will do Forest Legacy and this Fields Pond Foundation.
On the second page, or is that the Upper Connecticut thing? I don't think we wouldn't
Right.
qualify for that.
Right. I mean, this is a statewide list that was someone else put
Yeah.
together.
So that one we
Right.
could scratch.
You know, we're also not in the Quabbin to Cardigan area either.
Yeah.
I mean, Fish and Wildlife, I don't know, the North American Wetlands Conservation Act small grant. I'm not sure what that is.
I can take that one if you want. I have nothing about it.
Okay. Dick, are you able to take a look at any of these?
Go through and do a batch of them just to get some idea what their criteria is, due dates, and what they're all about. So I'll be happy to do any one you want me to, but I was going to go do a sampling myself.
Do you want to look at LCHIP?
Yep.
That's on the first page.
Okay.
Seems like the other important thing to get out of all of them is what's the match and what are the qualifications on the match?
Right.
You can have match and you can't.
Yep. That's a good point. So I think okay. So I'll say the focus, the match, maximum or range of dollars if they have. And the focus, and I'll also put activities funded. And so the focus may be, oh, this is sort of toward birds, but the activities funded, you know, maybe something else. So okay. All right, I can send out a list. Or if you want to.
The ARM fund's an important one. That's pretty big money, right?
Yes, yeah, the ARM fund is one. If someone wants to look into that, Dick, I don't know if you want to look into that. That one thing that's good about the ARM fund is there's no match required. But so a lot of people use the ARM fund as a match for other monies. They always talk about how much money they've leveraged with the ARM fund.
I know Warner has an application in for culvert work under that.
Yes, and I've been hoping that Bo could use it, but some of our permits, we've they've applied the kind of the alternative crossing approach, which means you're not really fulfilling the full requirements of the rules. It's kind of like the easy way out. And unfortunately, that means that when you go for ARM fund money, you can't get ARM fund money for the crossing that's an easy way out. So,
Well, this is kind of what I was getting to before about in terms of staff help from the town. I know in the Warner case, the town wrote the grant with the Conservation Commission's help. And since they say they'll save a lot of money. I mean, the ARM fund, if they get it, will pay a lot of money for the culvert. So it's in the town's interest to help write it, I think.
yeah, it just depends upon, I think that there's probably room for some of that, but the problem is that some of us know more about the subject than, possibly the town staff in terms of writing stuff.
Okay.
So I think definitely we could still use, I think there's room to get their support, because often you have to put like all these wacky documents together and financial things and what have you. And it's always helpful to have assistance with that.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of hydrology stuff involved too. That the town probably has a lot more knowledge about than we do. So.
Well, they subcontract things out to an engineering, the town engineer is a contracted engineer.
Right.
But yeah, I'll have to pull out some of the permits to see because I know there's also the crossing on Page Road that I thought was a possibility. I have to look at the permit and see if they really did a, full. So that is, one focus of these. And then there's the, the land protection part of it. So, all right, if I find a better list or I should say a newer list, I can send it out, or if there's a list of funding sources anyplace else that I know, but you can go to the website and then just cross things off for some of these things. But I think the focus of it, the match requirements, the dollars that are available, activities funded, is it like land transaction or land purchase or something else? And then I guess the time frame for application. So, okay. I think that's good.
And then Sandy, is the end product? Do we intend on creating our own list? Crossing off the ones on here
I
that are
think
no
that would
longer
be good.
applicable.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you want me to develop a blank table similar to this that I can send to folks that you can add information, I can do
That
that.
might be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That way I'll have the different points to remind you of things to look at or to collect the information on. Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask about, having people think about, is there anything in terms of zoning that you think may need attention? I know we made a bunch of zoning changes last year, but maybe if you want to look at the conditional use permit section for wetlands or for floodplains, and see if there's, I know actually I have to check with Matt because I know that there isn't an up-to-date version of the zoning ordinance currently. The 2016 one is the most current version.
Actually, Sandy, there is. It hasn't been printed, but I think it is almost finalized.
Okay,
Once it is, we'll post it on the website. That will include all the changes up to now.
okay. Well, I also, okay. So is it still internal?
Yes.
Okay.
I can ask tomorrow. I know Brian and Matt
Yeah.
were working on it to finalize.
Because I also, I wanted to make some suggestions on it, like the ordinance, like I think the pages, either they weren't paginated, it didn't have page numbers, or the cover was kind of the way it worded things, it kind of was confusing. So
You will have to talk to Matt about this.
I'll check with Matt on that. Okay. But if folks want to look at things now,
I will ask Brian tomorrow, and if they're done with it, I can post it online.
mhm,
I can replace the 2016 one with the new one
right,
on
okay,
our website.
okay. Sounds good. And if it is, let us know that you've posted it. That
Yep,
would be
I'll send an email out with a
okay.
link.
Okay. All right. And then I guess we can go to the minutes, unless anybody has anything else.
Wendy was going to research an issue. I don't know if we want to have that on the agenda or not, about the test wells. I was wondering if there's anything.
Oh, okay. Actually, well, I will mention what I know about that is the water company has decided not to go forward with drilling test wells at this time.
Okay.
I think they found a few major leaks that they fixed. So I think right now they're not going forward with that. I had checked with Dave Stack on something else and just said, Wendy may be contacting you on this and whatever. But as it turned out, as I learned subsequent to when I talked to Dave, I learned that they weren't going forward with the test wells drilling.
Thanks for doing that, because I had forgotten about that.
Okay. Okay, so let's go to the minutes, and I will bring up, I do have an edited version. Okay. Let me do stop share, and then let me do share screen again. There we go. Okay. Does anybody have any edits before we go through mine?
So yours are on there?
Mine are on there, yes.
Um, I don't know, these lines seem to be different than what I was.
Yeah,
I was just
I know.
wrote down line numbers. And
Oh,
then-
yeah, it's, and when they get converted to PDF versus Word, it changes, yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, let me, go ahead.
No, just go through yours.
Okay,
and You probably
all right.
caught most of them.
All right, so for the Granite Shore Power is just an edit from that Alan Palmer from GSP. It was Sarah Allen and Alan Palmer presented the details of the project, so it's just an edit. And I just done the couple lines down in the Merrimack River rather than on. And she noted that there are presently 2 similar gauges, but they're closer to shore. New ones are planned to be placed farther from shore. Gauges would be sending information to the monitors and be connected by cable. Let's see. Noted the downstream, I made downstream rather than southern because we were talking about upstream and downstream. The downstream gauge will be dropped to the bottom for the winter with the buoy taken off, and the upstream gauge will remain. Total impacts for both gauges are less than, should be then, 100 square feet. And then they answer questions, and then other ways of transmitting the data without a cable, like telemetry. I know Bob brought that up. And then it'd be good if a representative would be present to answer questions once the commission takes up the permit review when the application is being submitted.
Did we want to mention that our concern about the cable? I think Bob had raised that. All right, I guess I'll leave it up to Bob
Right.
to think if, because we don't really mention, it just says that we talked about answered questions.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I think
that could be added.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Without a cable, okay, I can say, yes, that, whoops. It's actually this one. Other ways of transmitting data without a cable, to minimize impacts, or I can't remember
Right.
what.
Yeah, the idea was that is this the least impact solution?
Right. Okay.
And I'm not sure it is.
Right. Okay. Okay, so for the Bow Pioneers, talked about, Dan, we received support Board of Selectmen. He said neither New Hampshire Fish and Game or New Hampshire Heritage Bureau had any issues with the project. I don't want to say hits because actually there is a Blanding's turtle hit, so I don't think that, think maybe the project wasn't an issue for Blanding's turtle, but there was a hit. Oh, and that's New Hampshire Natural Heritage Bureau, just realized. And then I mentioned that questions were posed by members concerning the project area being in the flood, the existing bridge structure being unknown due to water, the bridge plans not being adhered. Mr. Weed, let's see, responded by stating that they have used similar structures in other parts of the town without any issues. And DES had classified this, wetlands permit as a minor. I just say impact. Let's see, Ms. Crystal noted the functional assessment focused more on the Blanding's turtle than the hydrologic effects of the proposed fill. Said 10 feet wide and approximately 500 feet long at a depth of 9 inches in the floodplain. And the seed mix, I refer the applicant to a seed mix that is only native seeds. Then reiterate the concerns the commission raised. And so I bulleted those. concerns with fill and impact on hydrology, and provide, it was a scale bar on the plan. Okay. Then Bob, you provide the diver's work at Turry Pond. No further than the commission expected, given the chemical treatment last year, I added. We'll ask DES representatives questions about the chemical and similar issues in other places. And then thanked Bob and Dick for assistance to the milfoil diver.
Okay, Sandy, could you go up to the stuff about Turry Pond again?
Mhm.
I want to see what you wrote, that sentence about the similar issues. What did you, there's a lot of milfoil. Sandy will ask DES questions about the chemical. So what was that all about? Questions about the chemical and similar issues in other places.
Oh,
What
okay.
you were going to ask, effectiveness?
Unexpected reduced effectiveness.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's better. Of the, we'll say herbicide.
Okay.
Okay, good, thank you, yeah. And our update, I just said close to being finalized there. And then on the Abenaki test wells, I just noted that it's really not the current water shortage, but the need for an additional water supply. I had an L to my name. And then just say the lot in question is a town forest. Just some edits on the, let's see. Talked about researching grant funds. I just took out particular process. Update on correspondence. It was an inquiry received asking for assistance in removal of purple loosestrife that a resident had reported. I say no commission members were available to assist. And it was the Andrew Matisse update, and information requested by the commission and the Richardson subdivision NHDS letter that raised questions, including about the culvert sizing. Anybody have any other questions? Or changes? Anybody want to make a motion to approve minutes as amended?
This is Bob. Motion to approve with the changes.
Dick, I'll second that.
Great. All those in favor?
Wendy, I.
This is Bob. Aye.
Dick, aye.
Sandy, aye. Okay. All right. I did receive a something for the planning board meeting regarding a 2-lot subdivision on River Road. It's a commercial subdivision. I don't believe there's any wetland impact. I don't know whether, you know, if you want to know about it, I can give you the information, but it may be that the commission has no comment. I know we've often forwarded no comment on ones like this in the past. It's, let's see, 161 River Road. So, and I think there's a site walk there on Thursday. before the planning board meeting, if anybody's interested.
Are you looking for a motion? No comment or just, I didn't understand.
I guess I haven't because I didn't have this electronically to send out to folks. I don't know whether I really want, I thought I would mention it, but I don't think we need a motion. So unless anybody has anything else, I think I'd take a motion to adjourn.
Wendy, motion to adjourn, 8:25.
Any second?
It's Bob, I'll second.
All right. Sandy, aye.
Bob, aye.
Wendy, aye.
Is it Dick still around?
Yeah, he is.
Oh,
at
yeah.
Dana,
Okay.
slightly.
Yeah, okay. I know. I had him at a view, so I didn't have the combined view with the audio. All right. Well, thank you all. I'll be in touch. I'll get the table out for the format for the collecting the information for the grants, and I'll probably put a comments column so that if there's anything that if you don't know if it doesn't fit in the other columns, you can add information there. All right.
So
Thank-
Sandy, is that gonna be a shared document, or are you gonna cut and paste it afterwards?
I was thinking that we'd cut and paste it afterwards. Does that work best for folks, or would you rather do a shared?
Oh, that's fine.
Cut
Okay.
and paste is fine with me.
Okay. All right. So I will send it to you. Then you could do it on the ones you collect information, and we'll put it together.
Sounds
All
good.
right. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Enjoy the nice weather.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.